joins me now. Paul, thank you so much for joining me. So Paul, I've never had a chance to interview. I've been working in the news for quite some time. And, I'm dying to hear your side of the story. We hear a lot from the mainstream media. They talk about you a lot. They're still talking about you a lot right now. So take us through to where we are today. Obviously, everything that happened to you, insane story. I call it a political witch hunt. I really do believe that that's the case. Then we found out that the Russia collusion hoax was actually indeed a Russia collusion hoax, as in no one colluded with the Russians to steal a campaign. So, where are we today with all of this? And how do you feel about that?
Well, actually, there was Russian collusion, but it was Russian collusion between the Hillary Clinton campaign, the Obama administration, and the Russians. And that's what the Durham investigation is starting to show. And as the investigation goes on, the dots are going to start getting connected into lines. I was targeted for one reason. They were going after Donald Trump. The charges they brought against me, and I talk about this in the book, were all charges that had been dismissed internally by the Department of Justice in previous years. But Mueller's pit bull, Andrew Weissman, didn't care about that. He fabricated his narrative, and he prosecuted me. And I learned that when you're in the bullseye of a government investigation with the wind, tsunami winds blowing at you, it's really hard to overcome them, even if you feel like the facts are on your side. But at the end of the day, as far as I'm concerned, the witch hunt is over. I've moved on with my life, and they didn't get what they wanted. They wanted me to give up Donald Trump. There was nothing to give up, and they weren't going to get me to say something that wasn't true just for them to go easy on me.
When you say they wanted to get you to say something that wasn't true, how was that conversation had?
Well, there's a lot of conversations, not just one. And again, I get into this in the book. But Weissman created these narratives that were not related to reality. And in his mind, Donald Trump had been conspiring with Vladimir Putin and others in Trump's campaign for years in preparation for this run that he decided to do in 2015. If you had any connection to somebody who had a Russian surname, as far as Weissman was concerned, that was evidence that there's Russian collusion, except if you were a Democrat, in which case you could actually do what the Clinton campaign did and hire a foreigner in Christopher Steele, who hired a Russian, Igor Tivchenko, who went to Russia and had Russians try and dig up dirt on Donald Trump and failed. And when they failed, that didn't stop them. They just created what now has become the debunked Steele dossier. Those connections to Russia, to Weissman, didn't matter. What mattered was things that he just made up because they belonged to Republicans. And the fact that I had been involved in Ukraine, to him, was proof that I was working with Russia, even though my whole existence in Ukraine was fighting Vladimir Putin and the Russians and moving Ukraine into the European Union.
No, it's incredible the spin that they did there, and I've been following it since the beginning, and I never believed that there was any collusion with Russia. And I remember those of us who were speaking out against the Russia collusion hoax, they were trying to call us names, calling us conspiracy theorists, all these other terrible things. As somebody who works in the news, it's a dangerous place to be in when people want to label you, conspiracy theorists and all of these other terrible things. Now, what really I found astounding throughout the whole process was how the Trump inner circle was treated in regards to this investigation. It was ran kind of like what you would see in a third world country where they go after political opponents. This is not how you would imagine it would occur in the United States of America. Think about how they treated you guys. For example, what they did to you, what they did to Roger Stone, where they had the FBI conduct a raid on your homes, like kick down your doors. Didn't they go through your suits or something? They took your suits. They could have just called. They could have just had you come sit down with them, right?
In fact, in early April of 2007, or I guess it was May of 2017, I was cooperating with the Senate Select Intelligence Committee investigation on Russia collusion. I wasn't worried about it. There was nothing there. I had just finished testifying to the staff of the committee. The next morning, at 6 o'clock in the morning, 15 FBI agents broke down my door in my condo in Alexandria, guns pointed at me and my wife, and told us to get out of bed, and then ransacked my apartment for 12 hours. This was the day after I cooperated. And so it was all meant to be an intimidation tactic on the part of Weissman. Again, they weren't looking for truth. They were just looking to scare me and force out of me what they weren't going to get. And you're right; those tactics belong in the third world because it's not the democracy and constitution that I learned in school, but it is according to Andrew Weissman, who has a history, by the way, of violating constitutional rights of people that he's going after.
No, I mean, it's so crazy. And part of it is because they wanted the optics. They wanted to give the mainstream media, the talking heads, something to like foam at the mouth over while they were discussing it. They wanted video. They wanted to make it look crazy. I mean, as you know, CNN happened to be outside of Roger Stone's house when they did the raid at his house in the middle of the night. I mean, there's no reason for that. And then I was looking back at this article here from Politico, and I mentioned your suits. I mean, the FBI agents took pictures of your, quote, expensive suits. I mean, is that necessary?
Oh, by the way, Biden is wearing suits that are more expensive than mine these days, but I haven't noticed them looking after him.
And nobody cares if you're wearing expensive suits. I would imagine somebody like you who's worked in politics for a long time and has established yourself, of course you're going to have expensive suits. It's so outrageous. And I want to encourage people to go read your book. I think there's always two sides to the story. And obviously we haven't heard much of your side of the story because the mainstream media has been telling your story for you, and obviously in a different way. Now, I wanted to ask you about this. I wanted to get your reaction to the war in Ukraine right now and what's unfolding there. President Trump warned about this quite a bit during his administration. And I mean, it's just a total catastrophe, total disaster.
44 million people are about to lose their freedom, and we're just letting it happen. And I say we, meaning the U.S. government. It's instructive to note that Obama lost Crimea and he lost eastern Ukraine during his term in office. The very same people who were part of his foreign policy team are now the crux of the Biden foreign policy team. Different chairs, but the same team. And it's not surprising that Putin has once again decided that he could get more territory in Ukraine. And what he's doing is not going to stop in Ukraine. I mean, but he's learning a lesson that I understood. I probably did over 150 polls in Ukraine over the course of my time there. And I understood something that I don't think Putin understands, which is that Eastern Ukrainians, yes, they're Russian heritage, they're Russian ethnics. They want their religion, they want their culture, they want their language, but they also want their freedom. And to them, being a part of Russia is losing their freedom. So I am not surprised that with the fight that the Ukrainian people are putting up against this Russian army, and it'll continue. If the Russians under the Soviet days thought Afghanistan was a quagmire, if they do succeed in Ukraine, Afghanistan is going to look like a picnic because the Ukrainian people will not accept the loss of their freedom. Biden is letting that happen. It shouldn't be happening. Everything he's doing is at least months late, if not years late. The lethal weapons that he's now finally giving should have been given last year. This big deal that they're now talking about. There's no reason why we shouldn't be giving the planes to Ukraine to defend themselves. There's nothing wrong with that at all. And when Putin barks, we don't need to run. But that's what Biden does, because to him, everything is a sign of weakness if he's or a risk if he's trying to fight the Soviets and Russians in any way. Well, Putin sees that. He also saw that if he tried any of this on Trump's watch, he would have been slapped down real fast, real hard. And that's why under Obama and under Biden, you've had these democracies at risk. And under Trump, not one country, one democratic country lost its freedom, not one. And that's not a coincidence.
Yeah, it's just such a stupid narrative for them to say, oh, the Republicans say this wouldn't have happened under Trump and why it could have. Well, it didn't happen. So it's just silly that they would even try to say that. And there's a reason why Putin and our enemies like to make moves when there's Democrats like Biden and Obama in office. And Putin did this during the Obama administration with Crimea. And so he was just waiting to see weak leadership in the White House, which is Biden, and that's why he's reacting this way. So, I mean, at the end of the day, this is Putin's fault. He is to blame. But also, we have weak leadership in this country. And when Biden said, we're probably not going to react if there's a small incursion, I mean, words matter. Rhetoric matters. Well, Paul, we're out of time. We're going to leave it here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Stephanie, I look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you.